everyone, this is Warhawk Beyond 2040 and welcome to a very special edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. And today I am going to be taking a look at the very impressive catalogue from perhaps the greatest drummer of his generation and, in my opinion, one of the true masters of the drum kit and one of the best to ever burst onto the scene in recent years. And with every decade, you always have a little handful of drummers that not only redefine an era, but they also help shape a genre and a generation as well. For the 60s to the 70s, you had Steve Gadd and Tony Williams. For the 70s to the 80s, you had Jack DeJohnette and Billy Cobham. For the 80s to the 90s, you had Dave Weckl and Simon Phillips. For the 90s to the 2000s, you had Brian Blade and Bill Stewart. And currently in the 2000s, there's been one drummer who has been carving out a reputation as one of the absolute best in the world. And he has not only grown into one of the all-time greats of the drum kit, but he has morphed into, in my opinion, one of the finest composers in recent years. And he's one of my all-time favourite drummers as well. And the gentleman I am talking about needs no introduction whatsoever. I am talking about, of course, the one and only Antonio Sanchez. So, ever since Antonio Sanchez burst onto the scene in the early 2000s, he has already seen it all, done it all, and played and collaborated with just about everyone you can imagine. From Dinello Perez to Paquito de Rivera, to Miguel Zenon, to David Sanchez, to Donny McCaslin, to Tana Alexa, his wife, who he's a member of her band called the Tana Alexa Project, Luciana Souza, Vince Mendoza, Adam Rogers, John Patitucci, the legendary Chick Corea, who he was a member of his trio with bassist John Patitucci. He has also played with Michael Brecker, who he was a member of his Quindicate. And of course, how can we forget, he is best known for his current long association with legendary guitarist Pat Metheny, who he has been playing with for virtually 20 years now. And he has played in every setting with the guitarist, from trios to duos to quartets to quintets to larger ensembles. He has been a member of the Pat Metheny group. He has been a member of the Pat Metheny trio with Christian McBride. He has been a member of the Pat Metheny Unity Band / Unity Group with Chris Potter, Giulio Camasi, and Ben Williams. And he has currently been a member of the Pat Metheny Quartet with William Simcock and Linda Mahan O. And of course, just recently, his star shot off to the moon when he provided the film score for the world-renowned smash hit movie Birdman, and he's just recently provided the film score for television program Get Shorty. So Antonio Sanchez has really seen it all and done it all, and he's also played with Gary Burton as part of the Gary Burton Quartet Revisited with Pat Metheny and Steve Swallow, and he's also been a member of the Gary Burton New Quartet with Julian Lage and Scott Coley as well. So when you hear Antonio Sanchez, you know straight away it's him because he has a very distinct sound on the drum kit, and he combines jazz, rock, fusion, avant-garde all into one, and that creates a very unique package. And for today's special edition, we are going to be taking a look at Antonio Sanchez's impressive catalogue of albums, which is a total of 8 recordings, 7 studio albums, and 1 double live album. And I can honestly tell you right now, there is no bad album in this catalogue. Of course, there are albums that are better than others, but I find Antonio Sanchez's catalogue to be very diverse, and each album has its own personality, and they are all very different from each other. So, as always, I am going to be talking about each album individually, and I'll be choosing which one I think is the best one. Not an easy task, but at the same time, I know deep down which album is my favourite. So, we are going to start by talking about the first album, which came out in 2007. And the name of the album would not only define Antonio Sanchez as a musician, but the name of this album would later become his own working band in later years. And the album I'm talking about is, of course, Antonio Sanchez Migration. So, as I mentioned, this is Antonio Sanchez's debut recording, which came out in 2007. And it's a very diverse album, lots of different configurations here, from trios to quintets to quartets to duos. It's all here. And what an amazing debut. And this album would help to set the tone for what Antonio Sanchez would become all about. So this features sax titans Chris Potter and David Sanchez, bassist Scott Coley, and true legends Pat Metheny and Chick Corea, an all-star cast of musicians. And as you'd expect with musicians of this caliber, nothing but the absolute best. So we've got the first track, One for Antonio, which features Chick Corea. Great track and a great kick start to the album. Did You Get It, which is more like a free sax quartet with Chris Potter and David Sanchez just absolutely going wild on the saxophones. And then we got Arena Sand, which features Pat Metheny, and this would also mark the first time that Pat Metheny and Chris Potter would play together, and this would help plant the seeds for the Pat Metheny Unity Band just a few years later. And this track is very close to the spirit and warmth of Pat Metheny's classic double album 8081, and there's just some great solos from Chris Potter and David Sanchez and Pat Metheny as well. We've got The Challenge Within, we've got Ballad, which is like a sax trio with Chris Potter on soprano, Greedy Silence, another sax quartet outing, Inner Urge, and we've got the guitar drum duo track with Pat Metheny, Solar. So unbelievable tracks from start to finish, and as I mentioned, nothing but the absolute best. So we're just going to have a quick look. So there's the man. There we are. All good stuff here. So all of the compositions are written and composed by Antonio Sanchez, with the exception of one contribution from Chick Corea, one from Pat Metheny, and two standards, one by Joe Henderson and one by Miles Davis. So an unbelievable debut recording from Antonio Sanchez, and one that I still go back to and listen to quite a lot. It's really good. So the standout tracks for me are One for Antonio, Did You Get It, Arena Sand, Ballad, Inner Urge, and Solar. But it's a really amazing album. And as I said, there's lots of different styles on this recording, and this would really set the tone. So a really good, strong debut for Antonio Sanchez. So there you have it. Antonio Sanchez, Migration. Excellent debut album. So we go to the next album, and this is a double live album, and this was released in 2010, and this is Live in New York at the Jazz Standard. So this features Antonio Sanchez, Scott Coley, Miguel Zenon, and David Sanchez. So this is pretty much a continuation of the Migration debut album, but we haven't got Chris Potter here, we've got Miguel Zenon. And I'm not normally a fan of two sax players. It really depends on who the two players are. But I felt Miguel Zenon and David Sanchez really matched up very well, and they created an unbelievable monster sound. And there's some great solos from those two, and the way their saxes blend together is just incredible. So disc one, we've got Greedy Silence. We've got a Pat Metheny track, H and H, from his classic trio recording, Question and Answer. Ballad, Revelation, and then on disc two, we've got It Will Be Better Once People Get Here, Did You Get It, The Forgotten Ones, and Challenge Within. So disc one is like 65 minutes and 10 seconds long, and then disc two is like 59 minutes and 7 seconds. So both discs are incredibly long, And Antonio Sanchez quotes here, "I knew this band was going to be something special, so I really wanted to document it at its peak." You definitely can agree with that. These guys were definitely at their peak, and they just sound absolutely incredible. And so far, this is the only live album Sanchez has released so far, and I really hope he does another one. There he is. So, all compositions are written and composed by Antonio Sanchez, with one contribution from Pat Metheny, one from Miguel Zenon, and one from David Sanchez. So, really good stuff here. There we are. Some sleeve notes there. There's the whole band in action. Amazing band. Scott Coley, in my opinion, one of the most solid bass players and you could ever have in your band. There are great stuff here. So, great live album, as you'd expect with musicians of this caliber. Standout tracks for me are H and H, Revelation, It Will Be Better Once People Get Here, and The Challenge Within. And there's some great drum solos from Antonio Sanchez. But this whole album is just really good, and you have to really listen to both discs to fully appreciate how much Antonio Sanchez has grown, not only as a drummer but as a band leader as well. And this is only the second album, and he's just getting warmed up. So there you have it, Antonio Sanchez live in New York at the Jazz Standard. Great live album, and I really hope he does another one very soon. So we fast forward to the next album, and this came out in 2013, and this would mark the beginning of Antonio Sanchez having his own working band, which would become Migration. So all the guys are featured on this album, but they didn't quite have a name yet. But you could definitely see something was growing here. So this is New Life. So this would feature John Escreet and Matt Brewer on piano and bass, who would go on to become mainstays of the Migration band. We've got David Binney and Donny McCason on alto and tenor sax respectively, and we've got Tano Alexa on vocals, who's featured on one track. This is one of my favourite albums because as much as I like the two albums he done with two sax players, they're great, very enjoyable, but there's just something about having piano and keyboards in the band. It just makes everything more lush, more thicker, and it's just breathes a lot of life, not just in the music, but in the playing as well. It's just something about having piano and keyboards. Definitely feel John Escreet is the difference maker in the band. So we've got Uprisings and Revolutions, Minotauro, the 14-minute epic New Life, which is the title track, Nighttime Story, Medusa, The Real McDaddy, Air, and Family Ties. And you can definitely hear the influence of Pat Metheny throughout the music because, you know, that's no surprise because Pat Metheny and Antonio Sanchez, they've been playing together for so long. They practically finish each other's sentences musically. So it's no surprise that his influence is felt throughout this album. So let's go for a look. Some sleeve notes there. There's the genius himself at work. And there's the band that would become Migration. And there's the sleeve notes there. I think they're in like Mexican, I believe. And there he is. So yeah, it's a really good album. I love this album. I go back to this one quite a lot. As I said, there's no bad Antonio Sanchez album in this catalogue. I don't think anyway. So we're just going to 1 minute. So there you have it. It's New Life. Standout tracks for me are Uprisings and Revolutions, Minotauro, New Life, Medusa, and Family Ties. But a very enjoyable album. You know, as I said, as much as I enjoyed the first two, which were great, this is where he really came into his own. with this album and really became a great band leader in his own right. And he put together a hell of a band. You know, when you got two sax giants like David Binney and Donny McKayson, you can't go wrong really. And Tana Alexa's voice is just incredible, and her voice and vocals would go on to play a very big part in Sanchez's music on later recordings. And there's a little quote here from Pat Metheny. He says here, "This record feels like a leap forward for Antonio. There is a maturity and confidence here that fits with the person that I have watched him grow into in a really great way. New life sounds and feels organic and natural to the musical world that Antonio inhabits with his raucous musical interests and activities." Couldn't agree more. You could definitely hear the confidence in the music and the maturity in his playing. And as I said, Antonio Sanchez would continue to just keep getting better. So there you have it. New Life. Really good album. Another favourite of mine. So we would move on to the next album. And this is a little bit of an unusual album. This is another double album. This came out in 2014. And this is 3 x 3. So this is kind of like a concept album. So we've got 3 trios, a piano trio, a guitar trio, and the sax trio. So we've got essentially 3 lead instruments, the guitar, sax, and piano. And then we've got like 3 rhythm sections, and Antonio Sanchez is all built around all 3 of these configurations. Very unique album. I don't think I've seen anyone make an album quite like this. So it's a double album. So disc 1 is the piano trio with Antonio Sanchez, Brad Meldu, and Matt Brewer, which for me is the standout trio of all 3 configurations. It's just absolutely incredible, and Brad Meldu's playing is just out of this world, as you'd expect. Then on disc 2 is the guitar trio with Antonio Sanchez, John Scofield, and Christian McBride. Good stuff here again. And then we got the sax trio with Antonio Sanchez, Joe Lovano, and John Patitucci. Kind of the weak one of the 3 trios, but I recently listened to it again, and it's not as bad as I remembered, but I still probably say it's a little bit weak, but it's okay. It's not terrible, but I just think the other trios was a little bit stronger, but it's still highly enjoyable. So let's have a quick look. So all of the compositions are written and composed by Antonio Sanchez, with the exception of 2 standards, one by Thelonious Monk and one by Miles Davis. But good stuff here. So there he is. This was my favourite trio of the 3, in my opinion. Really good, and some of Brad Meldu's best playing. Nice. So it's essentially a little reunion of the Pat Metheny trio with Sanchez and McBride, and John Scofield's in the guitar role. Really good. There's the credits. There's the man. And there's the sax trio. Good stuff here. So, really good, enjoyable album this is. As I said, it's a concept album. The trio, very unique album. I don't think anyone has quite done an album like this. Maybe not to this extent anyway. So there you have it, 3 x 3. As I said, standout trio for me was the piano trio. And the standout tracks for me was all of them. Novice, Constellations, and Big Dream, which is kind of more like a slow ballad. And standout tracks for me on the guitar trio is Fall and Nooks and Crannies. Fall's more of a Wayne Shorter standard, so there's about 3 standards on here, not 2. And we got Leviathan and Fire and Enze and I Mean You. Leviathan's just really fiery, and Joe Lovano just sounds like an absolute beast on the saxophone. So standout tracks for me are Novice, Constellations, Big Dream, Fall, Nooks and Crannies, and Leviathan. But it's a very enjoyable album, and as I said, a very unique concept for Antonio Sanchez trio. Really good. Love this one. So we move on to the next album, and this could very well be Antonio Sanchez's greatest achievements as a band leader so far. This came out in 2015. I got this early copy at the gig just after the show, and this hadn't come out yet, so I was very lucky to get a promotional copy of this. And this, for me, it could very well be not just my favorite Antonio Sanchez album, but this could very well be his best one. So he's officially got a band now, Migration, and this is the Meridian Suite. So it's 55 minutes long, divided up into 5 movements, one long continuous piece. Think of the Pat Metheny group The Way Up, but taken to, I wouldn't say the next level, but just in a different direction. So we've got Antonio Sanchez on drums, keyboards, and vocals, Seamus Blake on tenor saxophone and EWI, John Escreet on piano and Fender Rhodes, Matt Brewer on acoustic and electric bass, Tano Alexa on vocals, and guest appearance from Adam Rogers on guitars. Really, really monstrous album and just absolutely epic. And there's another quote here from Antonio Sanchez. The Meridian Suite encompasses everything that I am today as a composer, an artist, and a human being. I wanted to create imaginary lines in which motifs, emotions, ideas, and melodies flow, meet, and intertwine, the way meridians do. I couldn't agree more. This was definitely Antonio Sanchez's mark as a composer, and to come up with an album like this is just incredible. And as I said, it's one of those albums you really got to listen to it all the way through. I mean, obviously, there's some parts you probably like more than others, but it's just epic beyond words. And when I went to see Migration, which was around this time, 2015, the album hadn't come out yet, and they played little excerpts of it. I thought, wow, if that's what just some of it sounds like, imagine what the whole album must be like. And I remember I bought it, listened to all of it the next day. I just came out of it a different person. I thought, wow, what a journey, what a trip. And there's lots of influences. There's jazz, there's rock, there's fusion, there's a bit of Latin, there's a bit of electronica. It's just a bit of everything. It's just incredible. So let's have a quick look. There we are. There's Migration. Probably my favourite incarnation of the band. When I saw Migration in 2015, it was just the four of them, but they were still cool as well. There's the lovely Tana Alexa, the man himself. Excellent bass player is Matt Brewer, really good player. And Seamus Blake and John Escreet, really good band. And there he is. So that's more or less the Meridian Suite is, I would say, is like Antonio Sanchez making a statement that he's more than just a drummer. He's a fantastic musician and an incredible composer. So the 5 movements are: part 1 is grids and patterns, part 2 is imaginary lines, part 3 channels of energy, 4 magnetic currents, and 5 pathways of the mind. So it's a really good fun album this is. And I'd probably say the parts that I enjoyed the most are grids and patterns, imaginary lines, magnetic currents. It's just insane. It's like an avant garde track. And Pathways of the Mind has just got this gorgeous 2 to 3 minute sax solo from Seamus Blake. It's just absolutely gorgeous. And to hear that live, it's just leaves chills on your arms and gives you goosebumps. Just incredible. So there you have it. Antonio Sanchez, Migration, The Meridian Suite. Quite possibly Antonio Sanchez's best album So we move on to the next album. This came out in 2017, and this is more of a solo project, not a band album. And this is Bad Hombre. So this is a concept album. Antonio Sanchez playing essentially everything, all the drums, and plays a bit of keyboards, there's a bit of electronics and a bit of sequencing, and it's just unbelievable. It's just like Birdman on steroids. Let's have a quick look. There's some sleeve notes here. Very sinister looking picture. It's a very dark album. Some good playing here. I think the word I would use to describe Bad Hombre is it's not easy listening. Let's say that. Very out there. So all of the tracks are written and arranged and performed by Antonio Sanchez. There's no other musicians. It's just all Antonio Sanchez playing drums with, as I said, keyboards, sequencing, electronics, and other stuff going on. So we've got the Bad Hombre intro, Bad Hombre, the title track, Fire Trail, Distant Glow, BBO, Momentum, Home, which would get a reworking with his band Migration just shortly after, The Crossing, Nine Lives, Antisocial. I wouldn't say the word it's difficult, but you got to be a certain kind of person to listen to this. But I really respect that Antonio Sanchez was willing to try something different, and he really goes for the thrill here. And he's all about taking risks and trying out different things. So it's a good album. As I said, you've got to be in a certain kind of mindset to listen to this. So the standout tracks for me are Fire Trail, Momentum, Home, and Antisocial, which kind of sounds similar to Birdman, which is no surprise because he's a big part of that film. So it does definitely have some leanings towards the Birdman score. So there you have it, Bad Hombre. Highly recommended, but at the same time you've got to be in a certain kind of mindset to listen to that. So we would come to the next album, which would be released in 2018. And this is another double album. And this album is more of a collaboration. So it's Antonio Sanchez's album, but he shares double billing with another musician, which is, of course, Vince Mendoza. And this is Channels of Energy. So this is kind of like a big band album. So this is all of Antonio Sanchez's compositions reworked as big band arrangements with the WDR big band. And Vince Mendoza, he has a knack for making everybody sound good. Highly recommend you check out his albums. He's done some incredible stuff. What Vince Mendoza does is he not only arranges the music into big band numbers, but he also orchestrates them as well. So they just sound like brand new songs, even though they're old songs. But he can breathe so much life into anything you put in front of him. And what he does here with Antonio Sanchez is just mind blowing. And he more or less arranges and conducts the proceedings here. And there's a little quote here. It says, "This album should be thought of as a trio in the sense between Sanchez, the scope of Mendoza's arranging, and the WDR big band. Sanchez truly is one of the eminent innovative drummers and composers of our time." And that was from CJ Shern. I couldn't agree more. And as I said, with Antonio Sanchez's catalogue, they're all different. They all have their own personality and they all stand out on their own. And as I said, his catalogue is very diverse. There's a bit of everything. There's a bit of jazz, there's a bit of fusion, there's a bit of avant garde. There's just so much in his catalogue of albums. So on disc one, we've got Minotauro, Nooks and Crannies, Nighttime Story, The Real McDaddy. And then on disc two, we've got New Life, Grids and Patterns, Imaginary Lines, and Channels of Energy. So there's a bit of everything from Sanchez's catalogue, and they're all reworked as big band numbers, and it sounds absolutely incredible. So there we are. Yeah. So let's have a quick look. There's a list of all musicians who play on it. The sleeve notes, the horn section, and there's all the geniuses at work. Unbelievable team there. Doesn't get any better. And another shot of the big band. And I believe this is from a live concert, I think probably in Germany, I believe. But yeah, it's a really enjoyable album. I would probably say, in my opinion, disc 1 is a little bit stronger than disc 2. I mean, there's good tracks on disc 2, but I really enjoyed disc 1 just a little bit more. So the standout tracks for me are Minotauro, Nooks and Crannies, The Real McDaddy, and then on disc 2 is Grids and Patterns and Channels of Energy, which is just like really wild. So disc 1's like 36 minutes long and disc 2 is like 45 minutes long. But I would say enjoy listening to both, but for me I just like disc 1 just a little bit more, but they're still good. And you know, Antonio Sanchez proves once again that he's not afraid to try different things, and I really respect him for that, and some great playing from here. So we come to the next album, and this is the last one that he's released to date, and this is with Migration, and this also came out in 2018, and this is another favourite of mine, and I went to this tour, and this is Lines in the Sands. So Seamus Blake is gone, and he's replaced by Chase Bard, who is an incredible sax player. Kind of reminds me of Steve Tavoloni. So John Escrete's still here, Matt Brewer's still here, and we got Tano Alexa as well. But when I went to the show, it was actually Orlando Fleming on bass, who's also a great bass player as well. So we've got Antonio Sanchez on drums, voice, and additional keyboards, John Escrete on piano, Fender Rhodes, and Prophet synthesizer, Matt Brewer on acoustic and electric bass, Tano Alexa on voice and effects, and Chase Bard on saxophone and iwi. And we also got guest appearance with a string orchestra. We got Nathan Sharam on viola and Ilad Cabilio on cello. So good album. This is a really big, epic album. And as I said, there's about only 6 tracks, but they're really, really long. So we got track 1, Travisia intro, and then track 2 we got the Travisia parts 1, 2, and 3. Absolutely gorgeous, and it really takes you on a journey. Then we got The Long Road, Bad Hombres y Mujeres, Home, which is from the Bad Hombre album, but it gets a reworking as a band with great vocals from Tano Alexa. And then we've got the title track, Lines in the Sand, parts 1 and 2, which is just absolutely epic. I really love those tracks. And when I went to this tour and I saw Migration, they just pretty much played the whole album back to back, start to finish, no break. Just incredible. There's some sleeve notes. Genius at work. There's a cool looking shot of Migration. I love how John Escrete's got the shades there. He's just looking like a badass. And Tano Alexa all decked out in leather. Just love it. They don't really look like your jazz band. They look more like a, I don't know, like progressive rock band or something. It's just so cool. And there he is. And there's the lyrics as well. So, and this is another favourite album of mine, one that I still listen to a lot. It's very fusion, but orchestrated at the same time. So, standout tracks for me are Travisia, parts 1, 2, and 3, Bad Hombres y Mujeres, and Lines in the Sand. And they're all like 20+ minute long tracks, just really good. Bad Hombres y Mujeres is very similar to King Crimson's Indiscipline with Bill Bruford and Tony Levin. It's just like do 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 do. It's really good. It's just really really good. So there you have it. Lines in the Sand, excellent album. And which album do I think is the best one? It's a no-brainer. I said it before and I'll say it again. The Meridian Suite. This is to me the culmination of everything that Antonio Sanchez has done up to this point as a drummer, as a musician, and as a composer. And I really felt that he started to hit his stride and his peak with this one. It's just absolutely epic, very cinematic, lots of influences. It's just got a bit of everything here, and you really have to listen to this to really appreciate how much Antonio Sanchez has grown as not only a composer but as a drummer as well. It's just got some killer, killer drum solos from Antonio Sanchez. So there you have it. My all-time favourites, and in my opinion, the best album by Antonio Sanchez, The Meridian Suite. Excellent album. My all-time favourite. So that's going to be it from me. I am going to wrap this up now. What's your favourite Antonio Sanchez album? Is it Migration, Live at the Jazz Standard, New Life, 3x3, Bad Hombre, The Meridian Suite, Channels of Energy, Lines in the Sand? There's no right or wrong answer. We all have our favourite albums. You know what to do. Hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, leave your thoughts and comments down below. And I will see all of you next time for another edition of the Jazz Albums Review Series. So until next time, take care everybody and stay safe. And once again, thanks for listening.